Okay, we'd like to turn to 1 Kings, 20th chapter. 1 Kings, chapter 20. Elijah's already there. 1 Kings 20. By way of background to this chapter, and before we get to our text, Ben-Hadad is the king of Syria, and Ahab is the king of Israel, the northern kingdom. And Ben-Hadad leads Syria against Israel. Notice in first 3 verses. And Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, gathered all his hosts together, and there were 32 kings with him, representing other nations, and horses and chariots, and he went up and besieged Samaria, which is the capital of the northern kingdom, and warred against it. And he sent messengers to Ahab, king of Israel, into the city, and said unto him, Thus saith Ben-Hadad, Thy silver and thy gold is mine, thy wives also and thy children, even the goodliest are mine. So Samaria, the capital of the northern kingdom, is surrounded. They are under imminent threat. And we read in verse 12, and they set themselves in array against the city. In short, God would defend Israel against the attack by Syria. In verse 13, a prophet came to Ahab and made a promise to him. And behold, there came a prophet unto Ahab, king of Israel, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Hast thou seen all this great multitude? Behold, I will deliver it in thine hand this day, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. So after God delivered Israel, and Israel is victorious, Ben-Hadad's servants approach Ben-Hadad and offered him a reason why they were defeated. Notice in verse 23. And the servants of the king of Syria said unto him, Their gods are gods of the hills, therefore they were stronger than we. But let us fight against them in the plain, and surely we shall be stronger than they. And in verse 26, Ben-Hadad again comes up against Israel, but this time in Aphek, in the plains. And again, God sends a prophet to Ahab with a message. Verse 28. And there came a man of God, and spake unto the king of Israel, and said, Thus saith the Lord, because the Syrians have said, The Lord is a God of the hills, but he is not a God of the valleys. Therefore will I deliver all this great multitude into thine hand, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. So the reason for this second deliverance would be to teach Israel, to teach the people that God is the God of the hills, God is the God of the valleys. We see Israel is victorious. Verse 29 and 30. And they pitched one over against the other 7 days. And it was that in that 7th day the battle was joined, and the children of Israel slew of the Syrians 100,000 footmen in one day. But the rest fled to Aphek into the city. And there were a wall fell upon 27,000 of the men that were left, 127,000 killed. And Ben-Hadad fled and came into the city into an inner chamber. So he's now in hiding. So God, in his grace and mercy, twice intervenes on the behalf of the northern kingdom, which was deep in sin, on behalf of their king, Ahab, who was a very wicked man. In verses 31 through 34, Ahab felt a kinship to Ben-Hadad, and he lets Ben-Hadad go. Lets him go free. He's made peace with the enemy of God. A valuable lesson is in 1 Kings 22:31, Ben-Hadad would again attack Israel. But back to 1 Kings 20, one of those sons of the prophets prepares to confront Ahab because he has befriended Ben-Hadad. This individual is directed by God to act out a parable before Ahab. To act out this parable, he would need an injury that he could display to Ahab. Notice verse 35. And a certain man of the sons of the prophets said unto his neighbor in the word of the Lord, Smite me. That is, God has told me to tell you, hit me, I pray thee. And the man refused to smite him. Then said he unto him, Because thou hast not obeyed the voice of the Lord, behold, as soon as thou art departed from me, a lion shall slay thee. As soon as he was departed from him, a lion found him and slew him. Verse 37. Then he, the son of the prophet, found another man and said, Smite me, I pray thee. And the man smote him, so that in smiting he wounded him. Now this was necessary to act out this parable. So this prophet then put ashes upon his face, disguised himself, and he waited for Ahab the king, so he could deliver the message of God to him. And that brings us to our text, verses 39 through verse 43. And as the king passed by, he, the son of the prophet, cried unto the king, and he said, Thy servant went out into the midst of the battle. And behold, a man turned aside and brought a man unto me, and said, Keep this man. If by means he be missing, then shall thy life be for his life, or else thou shalt pay a talent of silver. And as thy servant was busy here and there, he was gone. That is, the prisoner had escaped. And the king of Israel said unto him, So shall thy judgment be. Thyself has decided it. That is, your life for his life. And he hasted and took the ashes away from his face. And the king of Israel discerned him that he was of the prophets. And he said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Because thou hast let go out of thy hand a man whom I appointed to utter destruction, speaking of Ben-Hadad, therefore thy life shall go for his life, and thy people for his people. And the king of Israel went to his house heavy and displeased, and came to Samaria. In verses 39 and 40, we see this prophet acting out the story, acting out the parable. The purpose of doing so was to convict King Ahab that he had allowed Ben-Hadad to escape. Ahab had been unfaithful to his trust. God had delivered Ben-Hadad into Ahab's hands for destruction. And Ahab was unfaithful. He had the God-given opportunity to put away the enemy of Israel, but he let him go. Notice verse 42, because thou hast let go out of thy hand a man whom I appointed to utter destruction. Therefore thy life shall be for his life, and thy people for his people. The end result of this upon Ahab is recorded in verse 43. The king went home very discouraged. We want to take the thought from the parable itself, the story that's been acted out in verses 39 and 40. Particularly noticing the words, as thy servant was busy here and there, he was gone. Our subject this morning is busyness and squandered opportunity. As thy servant was busy here and there, he was gone. So let's look at this parable and then we'll make some application. First of all, the man in the parable was under obligation to keep the prisoner. That was his obligation. That was his responsibility. Keep the prisoner. But this man had to confess concerning the prisoner, he was gone. He's gone. What was the reason for the escape? As thy servant was busy here and there, he was gone. This servant failed in his obligation to keep the prisoner. Why? He was busy with other things. We hear him say, as thy servant was busy. As thy servant was engaged and occupied here and there, he was gone. What he's saying is, as my attention was directed here and there, as I was interrupted by things here and there, while I became engaged here and there, the prisoner escaped. As thy servant was busy here and there, he was gone. He was more occupied with other things here and there than he was the thing that he should have been most busy, keeping the prisoner. He was busy here and there at the cost of his main duty. His mind and heart became distracted with other things. And he began to neglect his main responsibility. Guard the prisoner. Your life depends upon it. And I do not believe that it was this man's intent to neglect the obligation. It was not his intent that the prisoner escape. He did not mean for it to happen. But as he got busy, occupied and engaged here and there, the prisoner was gone. He began to spend more and more of his time, more and more of his energy in other pursuits, in other matters. There were matters here, there were matters over there. And he would pursue a matter here, and then he would go and pursue a matter over there. And we see him, he's going here, he's going there. The result, he failed in his main obligation. When he began to pursue other matters here and over there, again, it's not his intent that the prisoner escape. He did not mean for it to happen. But that does not change the words, he was gone. He was gone. Nothing changed that. He was gone. Why? Because he did not give the proper time to his main obligation. He was gone. He became consumed with things and matters here and there. And he did not give proper attention to what should have been the main matter. And now we hear him say, he was gone. Again, he doesn't mean for it to happen. But that does not change the fact he was gone. He was gone. He had other desires. He had other ambitions here and there. And these desires and these ambitions and these matters began to swallow up what should have been his main desire and his main ambition. And we hear him say, he was gone. He began to devote himself to other matters here and there. He began to be pulled away from what should have been his main devotion with matters here and there. And he has to confess, he's gone. Again, he didn't mean for it to happen. But that doesn't change the fact he's gone. He's gone. He became more interested in other things and other matters here and there. And he did not have the proper interest and focus on the main thing. And we hear him say, he was gone. He allowed things, he allowed matters here and there to interrupt the main matter. Whatever was here, whatever was over there, his main obligation is keep the prisoner. Whatever's here, whatever's there, does not change the main obligation. Keep the prisoner. Keep the prisoner. Do not lose sight of that. Keep the prisoner. Whatever happens here, whatever happens over there, do not lose sight of your main obligation. Keep the prisoner. But he had to confess things here and there overshadowed and took precedence over the main obligation, and he was gone. The man in the parable had an all-important task. This is seen from the fact that he was warned in verse 39 that his very life depended upon his faithfulness and keeping the prisoner. His very life depended upon it. Nothing should have been more important to him. If by any means he be missing, then shall thy life be for his life. So his task had a life importance to it. Whatever is here and whatever is over there is not as important as this man keeping the prisoner. There may be important matters here, and there may be important matters over there, and there may be important matters over there. But in this incident, the most important matter was keep the prisoner. And if you have to go over there, or if you have to go over there, keep the prisoner. Nothing changed. Whatever happened over there, whatever happened over there, did not change his obligation. Keep the prisoner. It was an all-important task. But in his busyness, the task became secondary. As I was busy, here and there. Now it may have been, and it probably was, perfectly legitimate matters here and there. Things I have to take care of here and things I have to take care over there and over there. They are legitimate matters. But even though they are legitimate matters, it does not change. Keep the prisoner. Keep the prisoner. Doesn't mean he was to ignore legitimate matters here or over there or over there. All it means is, whether he be here or over there, keep the prisoner. Keep the prisoner. That's the most important task. Do not be deceived. Even legitimate matters can take away from that which is most important. Well, you don't understand. I had to go over here. That may be so. But you didn't have to neglect the main duty going over there. That's what people fail to understand. Whatever is happening over here that you have to attend to does not give you license to forget about the main matter. That's the lesson here. Nothing is more important than spiritual matters. I have stated that for decades, and people hear what they want to hear. You said nothing else matters. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. It may be what you heard because you don't want to practice. What I said is nothing is more important. It doesn't mean there are not important matters here and over there and over there, but whatever those matters are, they are not as important as spiritual things. We need to always remember that. Always. We must take care of what is most important. Well, I've got to go over here, and then I've got to go over there. That's fine. But don't forget, in your going over here and you're going over there, what's most important. Don't forget that. That's the lesson. This man had a trust that was committed to him. He had a responsibility, which means accountability. Responsibility means accountability. The man would be held accountable. So the superior officer returns, and this soldier would give account concerning how he managed the trust that was left him. And he had to confess, as thy servant was busy here and there, he was gone. The servant had failed in the trust that was committed to him. The prisoner was gone. So what he's saying is, thy servant was busy with other matters, and therefore I failed in what you trusted me with. That's what he's saying. Can you imagine how devastating those words are to the servant who speaks them? As thy servant was busy here and there, he was gone. Again, whatever's here, whatever's there, does not overshadow the spiritual trust that has been committed to us. And we will give an account. And I believe many will be saying, as I was busy over here and over there, it was gone. It was gone. The man in the parable serves as a warning. There was a charge neglected, a duty unfulfilled, a bitter loss sustained. The reason, as thy servant was busy here and there. He became so busy with other matters that he was distracted and failed in his first obligation. That serves as a warning to all of us. He became so busy that he left off what was most important. That's a warning to all. Take heed. He became so busy and distracted that he was unfaithful to the trust that had been committed to him. Heed the warning. The man just continued to be busy here and there. And in all of his busyness, he did not realize that he was too busy until the prisoner was gone. One day after he returned from over there, he discovers the prisoner's gone. What a sad day. Didn't give it much thought while he was busy here and there until he discovered the prisoner is gone. So it is with life. Many run here and there, neglecting the main thing. There's coming a day when you will realize it's gone. It's gone. All because I paid attention, paid most attention to the wrong thing. So one day he returns from his other affairs here and there, and the prisoner is gone. And he realizes, I have neglected the main thing. Now we must not misunderstand this. Busyness is not the real problem. That's not the real problem here. The real problem is neglect of the main thing in busyness. That's the problem. I believe we are to be busy. But you better be careful that you do not neglect the main thing in your busyness, and it's human nature to do so. If we become so busy that we cannot give proper attention to the main matter, we're way too busy. We're way too busy. So let's make some application to ourselves. Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs 4. Verse 23. Keep thy heart, guard thy heart with all diligence. The reason, out of it are the issues of life. That is a very plain, straightforward statement. No matter what is happening here and there Guard your heart. Guard your heart. Just like that man was to guard the prisoner. Guard your heart. That's your main obligation. Guard your heart. The heart, of course, has reference to our entire inner being. It's that which controls and gives character to all that we do. It's the thoughts. Keep your heart means keep your thoughts. It's the affections of the soul. It is the source of all human conduct. Keep thy heart, and do so with all diligence. It doesn't say with diligence, it says with all diligence. That is, keep your heart above all, and do so constantly. Take heed to your heart. Do so constantly. Keep thy heart with all diligence, with haste and perseverance. Do not be idle. Do not be negligent in this matter. Whatever happens here, whatever happens there, or there, or there, or there, keep thy heart. Keep thy heart. Guard your heart. Whatever happens here, whatever happens over there, does not release us from the responsibility. Keep thy heart. Don't be idle in this matter. Don't neglect this matter. We're to guard and garrison our heart. We're to do so constantly. We're to give vigilant attention to the condition of our heart at all times. Well, I have to be over here, and then I have to be over there. That may be so. Keep your heart. Keep your heart. That's your responsibility. Well, I don't have time. Well, you're too busy then. We're to guard our heart with great care at all times. The instruction is keep thy heart. Whatever's happening, here or there, keep thy heart with all diligence. Whatever interest, whatever else may demand your attention, and there are things that demand our attention, keep your heart. Guard your heart. The duty of keeping the heart with the utmost diligence is binding upon all of us. And whether we realize it or not, our lives depend on it. Our spiritual life depends upon it. Keep the heart. It's of life importance. There's no time, there's no condition in the life of a child of God which allows an intermission of this work. Let's say it's a time of prosperity. Keep thy heart with all diligence. It may be a time of adversity and trouble. Do not let the adversity and trouble distract you from keeping your heart. It may be a time of trial. It may be a time of suffering. Make sure you keep your heart in a right condition. You may be serving God, performing your duties to God. While you're doing that, keep your heart. Serving God and performing duties does not keep your heart. We have a responsibility to guard our heart, to keep our heart in the right condition while we're serving God, while we're doing the things of God. Keep your heart. Many have failed in this, and they continue serving, and all they are is robots. Their heart's not right. Keep thy heart. Nothing more important to the child of God than this. There's nothing more necessary than what we read here. The motive for doing so, for out of it, the heart, are the issues or the outgoings of life. It's of life importance. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. The quality of your spiritual life is dependent upon it. Keep your heart. Keep your heart. Don't get so consumed, so worked up what is going on here and there that you neglect your spiritual condition. This is where we are today. This is where we are today in our churches. People get so consumed. People get so worked up about what is happening here and over there and over there and over there and over there, and they neglect their spiritual condition. We're in pitiful shape because of it. We have to realize the world, Satan, and our flesh aim at captivating the minds and hearts of God's people. The devil's no dummy. He's smarter than you and I in a lot of ways. And he knows if I get their heart, I've got them. And that's true. The world knows the same thing. So you may get busy here, you may get busy over there, and then over there. But don't let here and there get your heart. Because if it does, you're done. You're done. Your life, your spiritual life is in ruins. And that's where we are today. And it upsets people, I know, because I've preached on the heart for many times, many decades now. That needs to be the emphasis, and that upsets people. And the reason it upsets people is because it's easier to do other things than keep my heart. And I can determine what things I want to do. Keep the heart. Keep the heart. People sit out of church. People do all kinds of things because they fail to keep their heart. They allow their lives to be dictated and controlled by here and there and there and there and there. We read in 2 Samuel 15:6 that Absalom, David's son, stole the hearts of the men of Israel. And that is where Satan's destruction begins. That's where it begins. He will do everything he can to keep the child of God's mind and heart under the controlling influence of here and there, because he knows I've got him. He doesn't care if you come to church. As long as he's got your heart, it doesn't matter to him. He doesn't care if you just go on doing the right thing. He just knows, I got their heart, I got them. And one of the ways that he accomplishes getting our hearts, stealing our hearts, is to get us busy here and there. That's one of the ways. To get us focused on here and there, to get us focused on the wrong things. Doesn't mean that we don't care. Doesn't mean that we don't have concerns about what's happening here and there. Doesn't mean that those things can't upset us. But they're never to control us. They're never to control us. When that happens, we're on the path of spiritual destruction. So all of our responsibilities are subordinate to our duty toward God. Here and there. Here and there. If we're not careful, we'll become so busy with jobs, families, circumstances, pleasures, problems. Oh, Pastor, I won't be in church today. I've got such and such problem. It just got me so upset. I just won't be there. You know what you've said? The devil stole my heart. This thing's controlling my life, and I'm not going to be there. That's what you said. I'm not talking about sickness. I'm not talking about health. I'm talking about people getting so upset over here and there that it controls their life. They are in spiritual ruins, and most of them are too ignorant to realize it. Again, I'm not saying ignore your jobs, ignore your families, ignore your circumstances. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in your jobs, in your families, in your circumstances, keep the main thing the main thing. Keep your heart. Yes, you have to go to work. You have problems here, you have problems there, you have responsibilities here, you have responsibilities there. You don't ignore those things. That would make you irresponsible. But you keep your heart in those things. It was not a justifiable reason when the man said, I was busy here and there, and the prisoner is gone. And so it is today. You can say, well, I had to go over here, I had to go over there, and I'm not going to argue that with you. Maybe you did. But you failed the main thing. That's the problem. So it's not so much the busyness, it's the neglect of the main duty. Just like the man in the parable, we can spend our energies here and there and neglect the main thing. Here and there may demand our energies, but if it zaps all your energy where you cannot take care of the spiritual, you're just dead wrong. That's all there is to it. When we become so busy here and there that we do not give proper attention to the things of God, Satan has us right where he wants us. And many times, most of the time, we're guilty of bringing things into our lives that cause us to run here and there. I've seen it happen over and over. Well, I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to start doing that. Listen, I'm not a mathematician, but I know how many days there are in a week. And you can't do all those things and not neglect the Lord's day. It's not possible. Again, we use the example. We bought a camper. I work Monday through Friday. I'm not going to just park that camper in my yard. I'm not that ignorant. So when are you going to use it? Saturday and Sunday. You see, you brought something into your life. We do that often in many, many ways. But hear him say, as I was busy here and there, he was gone. And oh, how many spiritual opportunities that is so. God gives us spiritual opportunities every day. And many times we're so busy here and there that we have to say it was gone. It was gone. It was gone. God help us to learn from this very instructive Old Testament parable. Brother Ben, if you'd come and lead us in a verse of song.